Hello, YouTube. Look, y'all. Look who made it to today. I did. You did. You did. You did. Okay. So first, aren't y'all happy we are here? I'm happy I'm here. Hey, Hawk. You made it. What's up, Reg? Peyton. You made it. Period. We made it. I play too much. What did I do? I just got here. What did I do? Welcome to today, y'all. Now, I forgot to make my live 18 plus on TikTok. So TikTok, I'm sorry if I gotta hang up on you, but come back if you're 18 plus. Hold on, y'all, 1 second. Let's try to do this again. Okay. Alright. Sorry, y'all. But YouTube is on 18 plus. Instagram doesn't care. And TikTok, hello, 18 plus. Alright. Now, I'm going to let y'all know right now. Disclaimer. This is an emotional book. Okay? So, if you do not want to be emotional, please leave right now. Okay? This ain't alive. And if somebody else comes in the room and they're like, "Ooh, what is this book about?" Please, somebody in the chat, please let them know. It's an emotional book. You might not want to be here, okay? Because I'm going to read it. And I'm hopefully, I don't know, like, maybe I can make it a pinned message. Let's see. Comment. Trigger warning. Book. And trigger warning. Book. All right. Clap. No more claps. Because we had to get it out of our system. Because I just told you, this is what we're here for. So we're going to get all the claps out early. Alright? We're going to get all the 360s out early. Alright? 1, 2, 3. Alright, they're done. Now, we're going to get to this emotional book, y'all. Thank you for the gifts. I look like a grandma. Oh, yes, grandma. Period. I know that's right. Okay, thank you, King. Thank you, 4 Wheels. No, we already did the claps. The claps are done. We already did the claps. They're out of our system. Now, we're going to get to this book. Okay? Oh, my bad, YouTube. What's up, Kwame? How you doing? Okay, so, like I said, this is a trigger warning book. If you already started listening to the book last time I was live, or if you watched the live from my YouTube from the book, you should already be prepared. If you didn't, if you're new, like this could be your brand spanking new first time in here ever. Let me just show you the title of the book. Okay. We are healing from childhood trauma today. So if you don't want to heal from your childhood trauma today, this ain't the book. Ooh, who sent me money? You can send money on here? Okay, you too. Thank you for the $2, Gregory. I didn't even know you could send money on here. Period. Okay, and the gifts. Besides, I'm sorry, I gotta get used to. Thank you, Mimi, for the floating heart. I gotta get used to YouTube gifts. They just approved my monetization, so I'm still learning. So I appreciate y'all sending gifts on here too. Okay. So I don't know. YouTube told me yesterday, like, girl, you was fully monetized. I was like, ah, man. Money won't be. You gonna give me some money? Okay. So yeah, I'm still learning. So I appreciate you guys. Okay. Like I said, I don't know. Can I pin a comment on here? Let me see. Start a poll. Start a key. Oh, Gregory, okay, with the $5. Okay, thank you for the $7, Gregory. I don't know how to pin the comments on here. Oh wait, is this button? Chat, no. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, well, YouTube, Gregory, if you're gonna be here, please, can you let the other people when they come in here let them know this is an emotional book and they might not want to be here because I'm still learning and I don't know how to pin a comment on YouTube live yet. So, Grand Rising King. All right, now I brought the chair. I brought the chair to read. So I'm going to compromise with you guys. Y'all keep telling me, Riah, just stand up and read, So I am. I'm going to stand up and read until my feet get tired, okay? Until these ankles swell up, then I'm sitting down. So if somebody coming alive once I sit down, you got to let them know. Well, she already stood up and missed it, okay? Everybody on the same page. Thank you for the gifts. You waiting for the movie. What movie? It's a movie? What movie coming? Alright, we left off on chapter 3. So if you missed the intro, the chapter 1 and chapter 2, they are on my YouTube, Unicorn Riah. They are on it's definitely on my OF because I put them all in one post. But I don't think I posted it anywhere else. It maybe it's on Instagram. It might be on Instagram, but it's probably on the Instagram live, so it might all be bunched up together. I'm sorry, I'm gonna check when I get off here. But it's definitely on my YouTube, Unicorn Riah. It's on its own little playlist, and the playlist is broken down, so you can read the chapter or listen to the chapter that you left off on. Okay. I'm also gonna be saving this live. So that if you can't listen to this right now, if you do not want to be triggered, you are at work and you don't have Kleenex, I understand. I'm going to save the live. It's definitely going to be on YouTube. Instagram, the live is going to save automatically. TikTok. I'm going to upload it on TikTok. Okay, I'm going to go back and see if the other chapters, is already uploaded to TikTok, then I will upload it. But if the other chapters are not, you gotta give me a couple days, okay? Just give me till like the new year so I could go back and re-download the other chapters and then re-upload them. So I wish, TikTok would get on the automatic posting of the live wave. I'm just manifesting for 2026. TikTok IT department, I hope you are listening, okay? We need automatic lives to just be able to be posted as a post. Instagram, shout out Instagram because Instagram been doing it, all right? Sorry, I just put my little manifestations out there. All right. We ain't asked them that. Lance, don't start with me today, Lance. I asked them for us, okay? Don't you start. You at work, you gotta get some work done. You do care. You care. I know you care, okay? Lance. If you are not at work, then you can listen to the book. If you at work, you can't listen to the book. You gotta listen to it later. Okay? Alright, is everybody ready? Oh, wait, what is this? No TikTok, no. Don't show for 10 minutes. Okay. Thank you for the live, Lance. Are you at work? Do you have time for me today? I am telling you what to do. Do you have time for me today? Are you at work or not? Thank you for the live. Answer my question though. I'm coming with the book. I'm coming. I'm sorry. I make sure my A1 day ones is ready for the book or not. Oh, thank you. Okay. All right, bad. All right, JoJo. JoJo, are you at work or are you at home? This ain't a at work book. I'm just trying to make that known. You better start. All right, bad. Okay, I'm making sure. I had to make sure. My bad. Not too much. Okay. We are starting on chapter 3. Like I said, if you don't want to start from chapter 3, go on my YouTube and listen to the intro to chapter 1, chapter 2. Okay? Trigger warning, last warning to let y'all know it's a trigger warning. Okay? Alright. Chapter 3. Why shame is so debilitating. Shame is a sickness of the soul. Terry is a sex addict. Unlike ordinary men, he thinks about sex all day. He told me that he had lost his wife and kids and ruined his career in a session. He had lost his self-respect due to his addiction. His addiction has put him in highly hazardous situations, especially when he is having illicit sex. He said that he is lucky that he hasn't got AIDS or been killed in an alley. Kelly also suffers from alcohol addiction. Before she came to me for help, she had been in rehabilitation facilities for 4 years. During her last stay in the rehabilitation center, she realized she was numbing her childhood abuse memories through alcohol. She said that she wanted to deal with her abuse as she kept relapsing due to nightmares. John came to me because he had problems maintaining good relationships. He said that it wasn't long before he started to push away people close to him, even if they were good. He would say or do something so insulting to them that they wouldn't come near him again. He wanted to know what was wrong with him and was struggling to figure out a solution. Thomas had been in sessions with me for quite some time. He came to therapy after he realized that his wife emotionally abused him. Ironically, his wife thought she was being used in the relationship when she read the book, Emotionally Abusive Relationship. She gave the book to Thomas, and when he read it, he realized that he was the one being abused. He couldn't believe how he could let his wife degrade and humiliate him. While the problems with the people mentioned above are different, the common thing they all have is that they all suffer from debilitating shame. They are so overwhelmed that they behave in self-defeating and self-destructive ways. Terry was sexually abused by his grandfather when he was 5, and it continued until he was 10. The circumstances around the abuse haunt him every day. He said that he hated everything about himself. Terry noted that abuse brought pain and disruption in familial relationships. He told me that when his grandmother saw his grandfather sexually abusing him one day, she was so disgusted that she threw his grandfather out of the house. Afterward, she couldn't look Terry in his eyes. The family adored my grandfather and blamed me for what happened to him, as they couldn't see him even on the holidays. There was no one to tell Terry that the sexual abuse wasn't his fault. He wasn't responsible for the divorce of his grandparents. He was not responsible for his grandfather's banishment and his dying in the little apartment all alone. The shame that Terry had to endure was so overwhelming that his daily acts were now driven by shame. This also caused him to always think about sex, and he introduced his neighborhood kids and little cousins to sex. Kelly was also sexually abused in her childhood, but instead of being driven by the shame, she started to numb the memories by consuming alcohol. John pushed people away because he thought he was not worthy of good things in life. He had been emotionally abused by his father, overtly and deliberately. It seemed that John's father was hell-bent on destroying his son's confidence. Thomas being abused in his wife's hands further added to the shame he already felt because his parents verbally and physically abused him as a child. He was so emotionally distraught that he had little motivation left to make his life better. These clients represent examples of how shame creates distress and havoc in victims' lives. The many layers of shame. Being victimized is a shaming experience. It brings humiliation as you feel violated and feel that you have no control over your life. Projection can also be a significant aspect of shaming. Most abusers are projecting their own shame by abusing their victims. In many cases, it is the abuser's motivation, however unconscious. Many of my clients admitted that their abusers had already been abused in their past. When the abuse is exposed, it further adds to the shame. This is apparent in the case of Terry. In Terry's case, his grandmother's reaction was shaming. With her comments and attitude, it seemed that all of what had happened was Terry's fault. She treated him as if he had enticed his grandfather into molesting him. The reaction of the family was also very disgusting toward him. They openly spoke about how the grandfather lived all alone and how much they missed him. Instead of helping Terry heal, they further added to his shame. Many of the victims are shamed by the reaction of those to whom they open up to. One of the primary reasons for this is that nobody believes them. This was certainly the case with me. When I opened up to my mother about being molested, she didn't believe me. She said I was doing this to get attention. This added to the shame and humiliation that I was already feeling due to the molestation. Some parents or relatives shame the child by saying that he was falsely accused that he has falsely accused the perpetrator, making the child believe that he was somehow the offender. In Terry's case, all family members rallied around him and asked how he could lie and blame such a sweet old man who had always been good to him. Victims also feel shame when they have to describe the whole scenario to the police or authority. If the victim ends up in court, it further adds to the shame of publicly speaking about it. Conversely, some clients reported that it felt good when they opened up, and many victims feel good when they make an outcry. Finally, there's a shame that victims have to endure in coping with the abuse. We can see in the examples how Terry began to reenact his own abuse with other children. We can see in Kelly's case when she became an alcoholic and failed 3 stints in rehab. In John's case, he was ashamed as he had hurt so many people in his life who had been good to him. Thomas had to suffer from the emotional abuse at the hands of his wife. It's essential to realize that there are many layers of shame due to childhood abuse. The shame that comes from being violated and feeling helpless and hopeless. The shame that children feel when their parents are disappointed in them. The shame victims take when they project their shame on others. The shame that comes from being unable to cope with the previous burden of guilt. When we see how the many layers of shame add up, we understand that it can be a challenge to heal, and the healing process will take its time and course. The healing process will need time, patience, and understanding. Shame is not a singular experience. Indeed, shame due to abuse in childhood is not from a single source. It's also true that it is not a singular experience. It is a cluster of different experiences and feelings. This can include feelings of being humiliated. Abuse is very humiliating for a victim, but some types of abuse are much more humiliating than others. For instance, sexual abuse has always had an extra element of humiliation, as it violates the human body and a child knows incest is taboo. An additional embarrassment is profound, especially if it gets public exposure. Feelings of impotence. When a child realizes that they are powerless and helpless to stop the abuse, they feel unsafe all of the time, even long after the abuse has stopped. Feelings of being exposed. Abuse and the feelings of vulnerability and helplessness make the child feel self-conscious and exposed. The fact that they couldn't stop the abuse makes them feel weak and exposed even in adulthood. Feelings of being defective or inferior to others. Most victims describe their feelings as damaged, defective, used, and corrupted following the abuse. Feelings of alienation and isolation. The trauma follows the feelings of being different, less than others, or cast out. Although abuse victims may want to talk to someone about their suffering, they feel immobilized, trapped, and alone. Feelings of self-blame. Victims of abuse blame themselves for the suffering and for feeling ashamed. This is the case when the abuse starts happening in childhood. The following exercise will help you discover the primary feelings of shame. Exercise. You feeling experience of shame. Although you may have experienced the feelings mentioned above, you may resonate with some more than others. Think about each type of abuse and the feelings associated with it. Ask yourself which of the elements below stand out. These are the primary feelings of your shame. The effects of shame. The nature and severity of shame can depend on these factors: the relationship with the person who is inflicting abuse, public shaming or private shaming, the number of times the abuse is happening, presence of emotional support during abuse, and the capacity of the victim to cope with the abuse. The abuse at a stranger's hand may be less shaming for the victim than the abuse from close relatives. The same is the case in that scolding a child publicly in front of their peers can be more shaming for them than if it was done privately. I particularly find it helpful to divide the effects of shame into two categories: severe and moderate. Severe effects of shame. These effects include feelings of self-hatred, self-sabotaging, and self-loathing, which can lead to self-destructiveness. Self-destructiveness may include thoughts of self-harm and self-mutilation. Self-neglect includes not providing enough for oneself for the body's good survival. Reenacting the abuse you endured. This can make the former victims become abusers. This can also make the victims allow others to take advantage of them repeatedly. Drug addiction or alcohol addiction to numb the suffering and pain and addiction can also include gambling, sex, and pornography. Victims can be bitter, hostile, and abusive towards others. Victims can remain isolated for long periods. Moderate effects of shame. These effects include sensitivity to positive criticism and correction, in which victims' shame can be easily triggered. Creating a defensive wall between oneself and others. Victims can be self-critical, harsh, and unforgiving of themselves. Perfectionism to avoid further shaming. Inability to speak up for themselves. people-pleasing behavior to avoid further shaming or abuse. Lack of motivation and being confused around tasks. High expectations from themselves and others. Exercise. How debilitating shame has affected you. Take a look at the severe and moderate effects of shame. Notice which of them apply to you. You may experience effects on both lists. Don't get worried or overwhelmed if you realize what extent of abuse you are suffering and how it has affected your life at this point. Just go slow with the pace. Defending against shame. Every person feels shame when they feel they are being exposed and humiliated. Typically, people feel shame for some time and allow it to pass on. But abuse victims tend to internalize shame. Their personality and day-to-day activities start to drive from shame. Some of the strategies used against shame are passive strategies. Examples of defensive strategies in which the person turns the shame inward include internal withdrawal. The person withdraws deeper inside to escape the pain that comes with exposure and rejection. They engage in fantasies to gain positive feelings. They're escaping from the problems and isolating themselves. Victims tend to keep their distance from others and lock themselves in places they believe are secure. Victims try to be pleasing to others and become overly submissive and non-assertive. They put the needs of others over their own. Victims try to follow perfectionism to avoid shame by never making mistakes again. Blaming oneself when something goes wrong. Continually comparing oneself to others and feeling inferior, a classic example of low self-esteem. Aggressive strategies. Examples of defensive strategies in which the person copes by turning shame outward include becoming aggressive and belligerent is a self-protective strategy. Being judgmental, critical, or condescending toward other people around. Strive for power and control to compensate for defectiveness that surrounds the internalized shame. Making someone else feel ashamed reduces your own guilt. Victims tend to identify with the aggressor. They take their qualities and start to defend them. All of the strategies mentioned are temporary fixes. These strategies will temporarily alleviate the feelings of pain, shame, and suffering. None of these strategies actually address the root cause. The following exercise will help you consciously identify the type of defense you took on against shame. Go back over the strategies above and see which ones apply to you. There can be several strategies that you may have taken. Don't be surprised if the strategy is a mixture of passive and aggressive. One thing to note is don't criticize the strategy you may have taken in the past. Just remember that the path you took was just to take care of yourself and to protect yourself. And that is the end of chapter 3. Everybody still here? We all still together? Yes. Yes. Everybody good? Good. And period. Good, good, good. Y'all ready? Y'all good to keep going? Y'all good? Yes. Instagram, y'all good? Instagram, TikTok, y'all good? Sorry, YouTube, we waiting on Instagram, TikTok. TikTok is good. Instagram, y'all good? Instagram. Come on, Instagram, you're holding up the book. Y'all good? Y'all ready? You need you. Okay, well, we're gonna hope that Instagram is good, but we're gonna keep going. Okay, if you're not good at Instagram, are you ready? All right. I just making sure. Okay, back. Chapter 4: How compassion can heal the shame of childhood abuse. Compassion is the radicalism of our time. The Dalai Lama. My new client Harvey hated to talk about his childhood. He said that talking about his childhood made him depressed. He told me that his father mistreated him and that his father used to make him feel small and inadequate. Harvey said that he used to walk around with his head down and he felt like he didn't deserve to be around other people. I asked why he chose to come for therapy. Harvey said that no matter how hard he tries, he can't get rid of the image of his father standing over him and telling him how terrible he is. Harvey told me that he feels good about himself, but when the images of his father appear, all the good gets wiped away. I have explained earlier how abuse victims tend to feel powerless and helpless, and how quickly these feelings turn to shame and humiliation. Many victims, like Martin, believe that becoming powerful and gaining power over others will heal the shame, and they thereafter no longer feel helpless and powerless. As I have a long experience with clients suffering from childhood abuse and personal experiences with abuse, I have concluded that compassion is a great tool that can cure shame and end the suffering of victims when used in the right way. How compassion cures shame. Compassion helps to soothe the hurting feelings and it confronts the pain. It neutralizes shame. When someone shows compassion, they're offering a healing elixir. When somebody joins us in the suffering, they provide us with not one, but 5 healing gifts. Number 1, they let us know that they are aware of our distress. The victim's fundamental need to be seen is one of their most basic demands. This is especially true for those who have been abused as children. Number 2, they let us know that they hear us. Number 3, they let us know that it is okay and we have the right to express our pain, sadness, fear, and anger. Number 4, they let us know that they care about us as human beings and they recognize our suffering. And number 5, they offer us comfort and soothing in some way and help us to heal from suffering. Exercise. Becoming compassionate toward yourself. Number 1, consider the most compassionate person you have ever met. Someone who was kind, empathetic, and encouraging towards you. A teacher, a friend's father, or a family who might have been involved. Consider how this individual expressed their concern for you and how you felt in their presence. Take note of the emotions and sensations that this recollection generates. Consider a sympathetic public person or even a fictional character from a book, film, or television show if you can't think of someone in your life who has been compassionate to you. Number 2, now imagine being as sympathetic to yourself as this person has been to you. If you would overcome with sadness or guilt, how would you treat yourself? What would you say to yourself if you were talking to yourself? The benefits of practicing self-compassion. Learning self-compassion will help you in the following way. It will help you acknowledge your pain, suffering honestly, and it will help you heal. It will help you take in compassion from others. It will help you reconnect with yourself and your emotions. It will give you closure and an understanding of why you acted out negatively. It will help you stop blaming yourself for victimization. You will be able to forgive yourself for the ways you have tried to cope with the abuse. You will learn to be kind toward yourself. It will help you to reconnect with others and become less isolated. And that is the end of chapter 4. Everybody good? Group hug? Group hug? Okay, period. Yes, group hug. Can you hug me from behind? Alright, y'all ready for chapter 4? Chapter 5. Sorry. Chapter 5. Talking about self-compassion. It is not easy for people to practice self-compassion who have suffered from abuse in their childhood. It is also not easy for them to accept compassion from someone else. There are many reasons for this. First, most of the victims were not raised with compassion. Secondly, most people with a history of childhood abuse haven't practiced self-compassion and were never told to be self-compassionate. Third, there are many obstacles and resistance for victims to accept the concept of self-compassion. You don't suddenly become self-compassionate. It is both a process and a practice. It will take time to practice self-compassion daily. There is no need to push yourself if you are not feeling ready. I'll lay the groundwork for compassion by introducing different ways of thinking. I'll also teach you mindful techniques that will aid you in coping with the feelings that will eventually come up as you continue to face the truth about your abuse. By the time you have completed this part, you will be willing and will be able to begin self-compassion practice, which is later discussed in section 3 of the book. The obstacles to self-compassion. It is understood that those who were abused in their childhood have trouble practicing self-compassion, as many haven't been treated with compassion when growing up. In this chapter, we will discuss the obstacles that victims have to face when practicing self-compassion. I will also help you fully understand how you were abused and how it has affected you. Self-compassion is self-indulgent, a wrong belief. The most prevalent impediment to learning and practicing self-compassion is that many victims regard self-kindness, which is an important component of self-compassion, as a self-indulgent quality. This belief is especially harmful when taken on by victims of abuse and neglect, who need self-compassion to heal. Culture discourages people from acknowledging and talking about their suffering. It's considered a sign of weakness. Victims are supposed to get up and move on. Expectations of instant recovery are very unnatural and unreasonable. It takes time to recover from the abuse, and the healing process takes its course. The healing process requires the victim to acknowledge their suffering and adversity. People who show self-denial about their suffering will find that pretending to move on will eventually catch up to them in the form of health issues, which many of which are related to stress. These people also become intolerant of others' pain and sufferings. They think that other people should get over it as they did as a victim of abuse themselves. Acknowledging your suffering with self-compassion is not whining, self-pity, or feeling sorry for yourself. When experiencing self-pity, we complain about the dire situation and see ourselves as helpless people who can't change. There are often bitter thoughts and feelings associated with these feelings. Self-compassion comes from a nurturing place that is inside us and is comforting and validating. Here's the difference between self-pity and self-compassion described by my client, Rose. Self-pity. No one likes me, and I don't have any close friends. I'm going to end up alone in my life. Self-compassion. It's a sad state in which I am in now. I don't have any friends or a man in my life. I'm afraid that I will not have friends or a man in my life ever due to my history, and it's understandable why I have this fear. Rose then told me that self-pity left her bitter and made her hopeless. But after she started practicing self-compassion, she told me that acknowledging that she felt sad and afraid eventually made her better. And using the phrase, "it's understandable," validated her experience. She told me that being self-compassionate kept her motivated and really helped in improving her situation. A fear of developing weakness, laziness, or selfishness. Some individuals worry that being kind to themselves would make them weak, and they will lack the motivation to survive in tough situations. But when we look at history and look at personalities famous for their compassion, such as Jesus, Buddha, Mother Teresa, and Nelson Mandela, their work and struggle can hardly be regarded as weak or unsuccessful. Being self-compassionate actually makes one stronger and confident. One client told me that it was good for him whenever he got hard on himself. He said that he was used to getting lazy and complacent otherwise. It is worth noticing that being hard on yourself doesn't really pay off, and it is not beneficial in the long run. It is far more productive to acknowledge the difficulties and appreciate yourself on how far you have come. Encouraging yourself increases your drive to become more successful. Some people think that being self-compassionate is a selfish trait. As a child, we are taught to put the needs of others ahead of ours. It is for the betterment of society. Because of this belief, some people may consider self-compassion as a selfish characteristic. The belief that you should take the blame. As discussed earlier, believing that you are the reason for your own abuse gives you some sense of control. However, this is a false belief, as it is taking you away from the reality that the abuse was not your fault, and it is just an unfortunate event that took place. This event shouldn't have happened in the first place. Since shame is so debilitating, human beings will do anything to try to avoid it. Having a sense of control makes us feel safe, and we are raised believing that we are responsible for anything happening to us. Thus, when something wrong happens, we tend to feel ashamed. There is also a victim-blaming mentality in our society. In addition, some have spiritual beliefs that something wrong happens to you due to negative energies. Cultural influences like this segregate and blame the victims. A refusal to acknowledge your own suffering. We can't get going if we don't acknowledge the pain. Denial serves as a powerful and effective defense mechanism. In some instances, we wouldn't be able to exist without denial. Some children, for example, have been badly mistreated to the point of suicide. If children allow themselves to acknowledge the abuse they are taking from the hands of their abuser, they may not be able to stay sane. Denial can be your friend, and at times it keeps you sane in unbearable situations. But it is important to know that you will not fully heal until you face the actual truth about your abuse. Some victims often make excuses for their abusers. They do this to minimize the damage. Sometimes they straight out deny their abuse. They need help to take such blinders off and allow their suffering to surface. The following exercise can help in this regard. Exercise your childhood from a different perspective. I want you to write your childhood story and write from the perspective of someone else. Be a storyteller. There once was a little girl who had a stepfather. The child in the story is the subject. Give details about what happened to the child. Please keep the perspective of the storyteller who knows what happened to the child. This exercise will help you to view your childhood from a different perspective. It has helped many of my clients. Not understanding how you suffered. Another reason many of the victims resist acknowledging their abuse is that they simply don't understand how they have suffered from their torturous experiences. Either they are aware of how the abuser has abused them, or they are unaware of how abuse itself has affected them. This section will describe various types of emotional, sexual, and physical abuse endured by children. I really believe that this section will assist you in two possible ways. Number one, it will remove the denial about the fact that you were indeed abused. Number two, it will help you identify how you were abused, also the ways of abuse that you were not aware of. Many victims try to clear the memories of abuse or neglect as children, but for some people, these memories are unclear. Some of the questions are still attached to these traumatic experiences. I've given a brief overview here about what is considered childhood abuse and neglect. All of these can occur separately or in combination. Note, some of the below mentioned acts of abuse can be disturbing. Neglect. Neglect of a child happens when a caretaker or parents fail to provide basic needs for the child. This includes food, water, shelter, and attention that they need growing up. Please keep in mind that failure to meet these demands only applies in this case if caretakers are eligible to meet the basic needs of the family. Emotional abuse. The child's emotional abuse includes acts or omissions by parents or caretakers that cause serious behavioral, emotional, mental, or cognitive disorders. Verbal abuse, placing excessive and unreasonable demands on the child, and failure to provide emotional and psychological support are different forms of maltreatment and emotional abuse. Psychological maltreatment. Emotional abuse is sometimes considered a type of psychological ill treatment. Professionals use this term to describe a concentrated attack by an adult on a child's self-competence or social expertise. This treatment is often deliberate on the caretaker's or parent's part. This maltreatment is classified into the following forms of behavior. Behavior that communicates abandonment to the child. Prevention of the child in participating in everyday activities. Threatening the child with severe punishment. Being emotionally and psychologically unavailable to the child. encouraging the development of misleading societal values that promote corrupt behavior in the child. Deliberately withholding love, affection, support, and guidance. Acts or behavior that humiliates or degrades the child. Refusal to provide for the activities and experiences that child needs for proper growth and education. Exposing the child to unhealthy and destructive role models. Forcing children to live in dangerous places and unstable environments. Physical abuse. Any non-accidental physical harm or pattern of injuries to a child under the age of 18 is considered physical abuse. This might involve the following: slapping or punching a child so hard that it causes bruising, kicking a child with so much force that it knocks them down and causes injuries, beating a child with a hard object, burning them with cigarettes, hot spoons, or putting their hands in a fire, biting a child, twisting a child's arms or legs to the point where it fractures or bruises, shoving a child's head underwater, pinning a child to the floor, hitting a child's head in the wall, pinching a child with so much force that it causes unbearable pain and lead to bruising. Sexual abuse. Any interaction between an adult and a child, or an older child and a junior one for the purpose of sexual stimulation is considered sexual abuse. This abuse can range from non-touching offenses such as exhibitionism or showing pornography, penetration, creating child pornography, child prostitution, or fondling. It is assumed that an older child is 2 or more years older than the younger child, but even a minimal age difference can also have tremendous implications. Child sexual abuse can include the following: exposure of genital area, kissing intimately, fondling with the child's body parts, masturbating in front of a child. The child is forcefully convinced to put his mouth and tongue in the genital area, or the adult laces their mouth in the child's genital area. Thrusting of inanimate objects into the vagina or the anus of the child. Penetrating genital area with penis. Showing pornographic material to the child. Subtle forms of emotional abuse. Emotional abuse can take many forms, including ignoring or withholding affection, love, or attention from the child, being disapproving and dismissive of the child's behavior and giving them the silent treatment, giving subtle threats of abandonment, not acknowledging the child's feelings or experience, making a child feel unwanted, projecting one's own problems and issues on the child, causing a child to feel inadequate or incapable. Sometimes parents try to shame their child into behaving, but they don't know the destructive impact on the child's sense of self. Parents also shame their child by telling them that they are such a disappointment. Parents used to tell their children that they would never be good enough. Telling the child that your parents are very disappointed in you crushes the child's spirit. These messages are a form of exceeding expectations. Subtle forms of physical abuse. Although emotional abuse typically includes non-physical forms of abuse, it can also include symbolic abuse. This violence includes intimidating behaviors such as throwing dishes, slamming doors, kicking a wall, or generally destroying things around. Subtle physical abuse also includes keeping a strap, belt, or paddle on display all the time, so the child is intimidated. This is also done to make a child behave in a certain way, and when the child doesn't do what the parents want, they point them toward the belt or strap. Subtle forms of child sexual abuse. A subtle form of sexual abuse includes nudity, disrobing in front of a child, observing the child when they bathe or undress, passing inappropriate comments that are sexual in nature in front of a child, touching a child in a sexualized way, being seductive and intimate with a child or sharing intimate sexual details with the child, making a direct or indirect sexual suggestion toward a child. Your reactions to this information. While reading this section, you may have had strong reactions such as surprise, shame, or anger. You may be shocked at the degree of denial that you are going through. However, you must have compassion for yourself instead of criticizing yourself for something that you didn't have any control over. Hold on, TikTok. You may be overwhelmed with anger or disbelief about how much abuse you have sustained throughout your childhood. It is common for victims to feel a great deal of anger, and it is a natural reaction. Releasing this anger can motivate and empower you. The good news is that there are ways to get through which you can safely release your anger. I have discussed these below. Releasing your anger. Some healthy and constructive ways to release your anger are: write a letter to your abuser and let them know how you were affected. Let all your feelings and anger come out on page. Walk around the house assuming you are alone and talking loudly to yourself. Express all the rage and anger you are having. Imagine your abuser sitting in front of you. Tell them everything without censoring anything, and don't hold back. And if you are afraid of the abuser, assume they are tied to a chair. Put your face in a pillow and scream. If you need to release your anger physically, find a safe and satisfying way to do so. For example, hitting the mattress of your bed is a safe and satisfying way to release the rage. Or you can go to a rage room near you, okay? Sorry. Relieving compassion from others. In the previous section, we discussed the obstacles in practicing self-compassion. In this section, we will focus on how to overcome these common obstacles. Obstacles to accept compassion. Many victims refuse to take compassion from others as they believe they don't deserve it and don't need it. For instance, when I try to be compassionate with my clients, they start to downplay it by saying abuse hasn't affected them that much in their lives and say that they have gotten over their abuse. If you somehow relate to these types of statements that my client expressed, chances are that you are still in some form of denial. The following exercise that I have included can help you look at the denial and better understand why it is such a strong force. Exercise. The exploration of your denial. Number 1. Because blank, it is hard for me to acknowledge that I was mistreated in this way. Number 2. Admitting that I was abused will make me blank. Number 3, if I confess the extent to which the abuse has damaged me, blank. Number 4, I don't want to confront my abuser while knowing the painful truth, because it will blank. And number 5, because blank, I'm hesitant to let myself experience my anger or despair. Living in a culture of denial and feeling undeserved. Our culture typically frowns upon those people who acknowledge their sufferings. In fact, our culture has a habit of celebrating people who overcame or moved on from their woes. People want to face everyone with a happy face and don't want others to start talking about their problems. It is so common for people to put on a happy face, yet if someone gives them news about their suffering, it comes as a shock to them. Many people who were abused in their childhood are so ashamed that they believe they don't deserve compassion from others. You should feel no shame in reaching out to those who can provide the compassion that you need. Having difficulty taking in the good. Another primary reason victims feel they don't deserve compassion is that they have difficulty accepting anything good. You start to push away people who are good to you simply because you believe you aren't worthy of these good things and behavior. Victims have a hard time accepting gifts or compliments from others. Many of my clients tell me that they put the gifts in a drawer or closet and don't use or see them. They usually give them to someone else. Some say that they get critical and start complaining about the gifts. Some victims even avoid acknowledging the thought of having gifts or compliments. Taking a compliment and gifts can easily make you uncomfortable when you are not feeling good about yourself and believe that you don't deserve good things. The same goes for compassion if someone else is giving it to you. So, the next time that you receive a gift or a compliment, try the exercise I've added below. Exercise, learning to take a compliment. Number 1, don't say anything right away and hastily. Number 2, take a deep breath and relax. Take a deep and relaxed breath and imagine taking the compliment. Number 3, notice how it feels. If it makes you uncomfortable, try to allow it by not being judgmental. Number 4, breathe out and say thank you to the person. Try to add something positive, and if not, give a neutral response. If you have an urge to say something negative, try to resist it. Try to have a genuine smile when saying thank you. And number 5, take some time and reflect on the exercise. Try to write up any feelings or memories that came up during this exercise. You can also do the same exercise when you receive a gift. When taking a deep breath, take some time to imagine how much thought and time this person gave while choosing this gift. Keeping our emotional walls high. The reason some people have difficulty in taking compassion from others is that they feel vulnerable. If you have built up a wall to shield yourself from shame, it may become difficult to lower it and to let compassion in. Some people become so overwhelmed with grief and pain that they start to disassociate from it. Others feel that it will be soon taken away from them if they allow kindness and joy. Receiving the compassion you missed out on. Now I will offer you a safe environment, kindness, and support that you may not have received while growing up. taking in words of compassion. Imagine you are sitting with me in any environment you're comfortable in. Take the list you made earlier about how in different ways you were abused as a child. Slowly read that list in silence and notice how you feel. Reread the list, this time aloud. Now, imagine me saying these words to you. I'm sorry for all of the things that have happened to you. I'm sorry you were abused in these ways. I want you to know that I understand your suffering. I know you have felt alone, and no one could possibly understand how you are feeling. I understand all of this because I have been an abused victim myself and have survived these horrific feelings. Many clients have told me their stories, and it has given me a deep understanding of how abuse can make people suffer. No one should go through this torment. I believe that knowing someone cares for you makes suffering a little more bearable. Sit back and try to take in my words. Reread the words again and take deep breaths until you can take the words in. And that is the end of chapter 5. Oh look, we are halfway through the book. Everybody good? Everybody good? TikTok, you good? Instagram, you good? YouTube, you good? Yes, YouTube's good. Okay. Instagram, you good? TikTok, you good? TikTok's good. Instagram, we still waiting on you. Instagram, y'all good? All right. We gonna hope we gonna send a hug out to Instagram. We hope y'all good. Okay. All right, we're about to start chapter 6. Chapter 6. 5 ways of recovering from the abuse. There is a proven strategy that helps with practicing compassion. This strategy has 5 components, which are, number 1, self-understanding. Number 2, self-forgiveness. Number 3, self-kindness. Number 4, self-encouragement. And number 5, self-acceptance. This strategy is designed to teach victims of child abuse about the following attitudes and skills. How to view your symptoms and negative ways of coping. How to forgive yourself for the harm you have caused to yourself or others. How to understand the negative power of self-criticism and focus on yourself. How to have inner strength and warmth against self-attacking thoughts. How to substitute self-criticism with self-kindness. How to have compassionate feelings for yourself and how to soothe yourself in positive ways. How to know about your strengths and work on them. How to appreciate yourself. And how to practice accountability instead of criticizing yourself. The amount of shame the victims of child abuse go through makes it impossible for them to practice self-kindness unless or until they decrease the amount of shame they carry. This is because these victims believe that they don't deserve self-kindness. To practice self-kindness, victims need to practice 3 components: self-understanding, self-acceptance, and self-forgiveness. Self-understanding. It is one of the essential components of the strategy we are studying. By gaining self-understanding, you will relieve yourself of the burden and shame you are carrying due to abuse. Without self-understanding, it will be nearly impossible for you to practice the other four components. Like many victims, you may be overwhelmed by the shame of being abused, and that shame you have to carry due to self-harming behavior. This shame can interfere with your ability to be self-compassionate. Self-understanding can be the key that will help you open the doors to self-compassion. Victims tend to continue harming themselves without self-understanding and letting themselves feel down for their mistakes and shortcomings. Victims who are abused in their childhood are very hard on themselves. They set high expectations for themselves and try to achieve them. They make many mistakes that further cause them to have no mercy on themselves and have no excuse policy for their behavior. This situation is unfortunate, as you don't allow yourself to acknowledge the pain and sufferings, and you expect yourself to walk away from abuse unscathed. The fortunate thing is that you may be aware of how trauma has affected you. For comparison, let's say you were in a plane crash and you survived it. Your physical injuries are now healed, but the events during the impact you had to go through are traumatic. The realization that your life was in danger and the fear of what would happen was horrible. The terror of pain, overwhelming sights and sounds are itself very traumatic. Even though you survived, you still have to take this trauma with you. You will replay the crash over and over. You will experience nightmares for quite some time. The same is the case of child abuse victims. In addition to the shame, they have to carry the trauma and stress of these memories. And this stress and trauma take a toll on the victim. I have often found myself explaining to clients that I have actually never met a victim of childhood abuse who didn't react to the abuse with problematic behaviors, abusing alcohol or drugs, acting out, sexual or other addictions, self-harm, abusive behavior toward loved ones, or a pattern of staying in abusive relationships. Throughout this chapter, I aim to encourage you to connect with your past and current behavior and the traumatic experiences. This will help you be compassionate with yourself. Post-traumatic stress disorder. PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is a severe anxiety disorder that develops after extremely traumatic events. This can be severe injury or being in life-threatening situations. This can also be from the violent assault that damages personal pride and integrity. People diagnosed with PTSD have nightmares and flashbacks of the traumatic events. They have difficulty sleeping and they feel detached and estranged. To make matters worse, PTSD often occurs with related disorders such as substance abuse, depression, and the problem of memory and cognition. In some cases of PTSD, symptoms become more debilitating than trauma. PTSD further impairs the person's ability to function socially and in family life, including troubled marital life, family discord, difficulty in parenting, and occupational difficulties. Those people who are diagnosed with PTSD are vulnerable to repeating cycle of violence due to the following reasons. Number 1, many people diagnosed with PTSD turn to drugs and alcohol to get relief from their symptoms. Number 2, some people may develop abusive behaviors and may have trouble controlling their anger. And number 3, some victims may develop victim-like behavior. They may indulge in self-blame, feel helpless, and have a sense of being tainted or evil. Complex trauma. Children who have suffered from multiple chronic traumas suffer from unusual set-off symptoms that can differ from the symptoms of PTSD. These children tend to suffer from serious interpersonal, functional, and behavioral problems. This is known as complex trauma. This particular group has high rates of depression, drug and substance abuse, personality disorders, and anxiety stress disorders. Unless victims don't overcome these adverse effects of trauma, they may continue to experience this throughout their lives. Victims of complex trauma tend to experience extreme behaviors such as self-injury, cutting, and headbanging, sexual acting out, getting into high-risk and painful situations, sudden and repeated outbursts of anger, extreme behaviors such as cutting and headbanging, severe sexual acting out, addictions to illicit sex or pornography, reenacting sexual trauma, creating high-risk or painful situations to counteract feeling numb or dead inside, self-harming behaviors, sudden outbursts of anger, suicidal ideation or suicide attempts, extreme risk-taking behavior, reenacting unhealthy relationships. Trauma-sensitive and trauma-informed. The expressions trauma-sensitive and trauma-informed allude to more supportive, caring, and compassionate ways of seeing the behaviors of victims who have been damaged or traumatized. The trauma-sensitive methodology challenges how we look and perceive trauma victims, helping and empowering them to treat themselves and be treated by experts with greater poise, regard, and sympathy than they normally do. The term trauma-informed suggests that the victims and helpers are both trained in the consequences of trauma. By treating yourself in trauma-sensitive and trauma-informed ways, you can easily increase your ability to be more compassionate. This helps you to be more empathetic and empowers you to deal with your symptoms. These are some of the principles of the trauma-informed way of thinking below. Trauma restricts the victim's choice and disturbs life. It undermines self-esteem and creates a sense of hopelessness and helplessness. Behavioral problems are adaptive responses to trauma. They should be viewed as an attempt to cope with past trauma. Substance use may have evolved as a coping strategy when options were limited. The focus should be on what happens to the victims rather than what was wrong with them. Victims are doing the best of their capacity to cope with the life-altering and life-shattering effects of trauma. Instead of blaming yourself for the efforts you are putting in to manage your trauma reactions, you can start to recognize the adaptive function of your symptoms. For example, you are consuming alcohol and other drugs to cope with anxiety. You can begin to recognize this and have compassion for yourself. This is a significant change and step forward. The benefits of trauma-informed thinking include: it helps you transform from being bad to being hurt. This opens a door for a more empathetic and constructive attitude towards yourself. It helps in externalizing your problems. You can view yourself as good with some issues that have intruded in your life, but they don't represent your true self. Trauma-informed helps victims show normal and reasonable reactions to the traumatic and unfortunate events. It emphasizes the resources and strengths. As victims are very self-critical, they must look for their strengths and give themselves due credit. It helps victims to look for healthy and productive strategies to cope with trauma. Connecting behavior and experience. Making the right connection between your behavior and trauma will help you be more compassionate and less judgmental, critical, impatient, and angry at your behavior. Some of the problematic behaviors are listed below. This list is not comprehensive, but it will help you understand the connection between troubled behavior and abuse. Eating disorders, self-injurious behavior, drug abuse and substance use, emotional dysregulation, deregulation. Eating disorders. Eating disorders include eating problems such as binging, overeating, and emotional eating because you were emotionally abused. These issues arise to cope with loneliness, depression, emptiness, or other forms of stress and anxiety. Self-injurious behavior. This includes behavior like cutting or self-inflicting wounds, burns, or headbanging. These are attempts to make cope with severe abuse or abuse caused by multiple perpetrators. Using substances to manage the impact of abuse. A person who has been abused emotionally, physically, and sexually has to suffer from powerful emotions and interpersonal chaos. Some victims believe and discover that they can get relief from pain by using drugs and alcohol. Depression. Many of the victims report that they feel hopeless about their life. Using drugs like cocaine help alleviate the mood for a short time for the victims who experience depression for an extended period. Anxiety. Victims of trauma feel anxious and fearful all the time. Alcohol and tranquilizers lessen the anxiety for a short term for the victim who constantly feel on edge. Inner turmoil and pain. Victims who experience nightmares and flashbacks of the traumatic events may feel that the intensity of their experience is far too great. They might seek drugs that help them to forget and tend to dull or numb sensations. These victims are at high risk of choosing opioids or alcohol to reduce the pain. The absence of all feelings. While some victims feel too much, some have reported that they are unable to feel anything. They said that they are unable to feel any sensations, from sexuality to happiness or sadness. Any substances that heighten the sensations are appealing to these victims. They may be drawn toward cocaine or amphetamines for adrenaline rush type sensations. Passivity. The long-term consequence of abuse is the lack or absence of any motivation in abuse victims. These victims are unable to stand up for themselves. They report that they see no choice but to submit to someone instead of standing up for themselves. They wish they could feel anger or assertiveness. Drugs such as PCP or alcohol appeal to these victims. Excessive anger and rage. When victims accept what was done to them at the hands of the abuser, they may have overwhelming feelings of rage and anger. If they don't have access to the abuser, they may feel angry and find no outlet for their rage. In many cases, they turn to drugs and alcohol to feel less angry. an opportunity for self-understanding. You are more prone to use drugs to cope with traumatic symptoms if you often use drugs or alcohol for recreational purposes. Try these sentence stems for the symptoms. This is an effective way and will be beneficial in the long term. Given my past associated with sexual abuse, it's normal that I try to drown out the pain somehow. Given my experiences of abuse, it's understandable that I began drinking at such a young age. Given my history of abuse, it's understandable that I drink excessively. It's reasonable that I've had a hard time quitting drinking, given my abused childhood. I recommend that you repeat the identical phrase stem as many times as necessary. I suggest you use the same sentence stems, completing the sentence as many times as you can think of responses. Grounding. Grounding is a powerful but simple and effective strategy to manage and relieve emotional pain, such as panic episodes, trauma flashbacks, and dissociating. Grounding is powerful because it can be used in any situation where you are caught in emotional pain. It can be done at any time and at any place. It is important to note that grounding is not a relaxation technique. It is a tool often used for centering victims. Some of the victims with PTSD tend to become anxious when guided through conventional methods because hearing words like relax may be a trigger that can remind them of sexual abuse. Most victims report that they feel more present after practicing grounding. Practice grounding whenever you are feeling extremely anxious. Putting your behaviors in context. The following exercise will help you in building a better self-understanding. Exercise. The connection between the abuse and your behaviors. Number 1. Make a list of behaviors that causes you troubles. You can also write down what things you have done that cause the most shame. Number 2. Take a close look at the list and see if you can find the connection between it and your abuse experience. Number 3. Once you have the connection and know it is understandable, check whether you feel more compassion for yourself. And number 4. Next time, see if you are behaving in a self-destructive way. Instead of blaming yourself, try to say to yourself, I understand why I am acting this way. Repeating the cycle of abuse. We have already discussed why abuse victims resort to coping mechanisms like substance abuse, self-harm, sexual abuse, and other dangerous addictions. This section will focus on another reason why abuse victims tend to carry such a tremendous amount of shame. This is a sad fact that no one gets through the abusive childhood experience unscathed. In many cases, those who are abused tend to become abusers as they grow up. Research reveals that those who experience abuse tend to absorb it and pass it on. Studies show that children who are abused and assaulted are at greater risk of becoming abusive toward their children when they become parents. Females who have been abused in childhood have a high chance of continued victimization even when they grow up. A sexually abused male will be likely to harm his children sexually. If he marries a woman who is sexually abused, there is a high chance she will become a silent partner. She will stand silently while her husband continuously molests their children. Battered women are often and frequently misunderstood even by those who are closest to them. In my experience of dealing with many victims, there's always a good reason, and it only has something to do with an abusive childhood. Number 1, make a list of all the reasons you cannot leave the situation or end the relationship, like a fear of being alone, or not supporting your children, or believing that your partner will commit suicide if you leave. Number 2, now go back over your upbringing to see if there are any parallels to the above mentioned reasons. You may have documented fear of being alone because you were frequently left home as a child with no one to look after you. You may possibly show worry about not being able to look after your children since your father abandoned the family and you went through a period where you didn't have enough to eat. The fear that your spouse may commit suicide may stem from your father threatening or committing suicide when your mother left him. It is difficult for many of us, including the victims, to understand why a battered woman stays in an abusive relationship. It is even harder to understand why someone would abuse another human in such a brutal way. Sam's story, repeating what was done to him. Sam was my client in the early part of my career. He was required by law to seek counseling for abusing his wife physically. I was an intern, and at the time, I didn't completely understand why victims were used in this way. At that particular time, victims were thought to have anger management issues. Working with Sam was a gift because he gave me a deep understanding of the batter's plight. Sam was initially defensive to the point where he argued and seemed utterly closed to any help I was offering. He was convinced that he was beating his wife because she wasn't listening to him, and the only solution to the problem in his mind was for her to do everything he asked her to do. While he realized he had to stop beating her to avoid jail, he still didn't grasp the real understanding of why he shouldn't treat his wife this way. After many sessions, I realized that Sam's behavior was a great deal of shame he was trying to suppress under all of this. It took a while, but I discovered that Sam's father was severely emotionally abusive toward him in his childhood. His father always undermined him and told him he was worthless and would not achieve anything in his life. When I talked about this with Sam and how his father treated him, he tried to brush it off and said it wasn't a big deal and it was for his own good. I was determined to help Sam, and I wanted Sam to be compassionate toward himself. I told him that his father didn't have any right to talk to him in this way. I told him that it was a bad situation that he had to go through. I politely told him that it was very mean of his father to attack his character. At first, Sam argued and told me that he needed it when he wasn't good enough and said it made him strong. He told me that his father was trying to make him more responsible. Over the next few months, Sam began to see the emotional abuse he had to endure from his father. He felt ashamed and humiliated. I continued to offer him compassion, and eventually, Sam started to realize that perhaps his father was way too hard on him. The next stage was to help and encourage Sam to have compassion for himself. He began to recognize that he had been, after all, just a little boy, and that his father's expectations were too high. He was able to get to the point to tell me that he didn't feel like a screw-up for the first time in his life. By gaining self-understanding and connecting with his own suffering, Sam could have true and honest compassion for his wife's abuse. By the time Sam left the program, I was no longer worried about him abusing his wife again, but of course, I couldn't be sure. About 6 months later, Sam sent me this letter. I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the work you did with me. No one in my life has ever understood me the way you did, and no one has been so kind. You helped me to feel that maybe I could be kind to myself. I learned so much from you. Mostly, I realized that I didn't want to treat my wife and kids the way I was treated. P.S. My wife wants me to thank you too. If you have become an abuser or abusive to anyone close, I hope the story of Sam will aid you into remembering that there is always a reason someone becomes an abuser. In fact, I have never known an abuser who wasn't abused in any way. However, it's just an explanation, not an excuse. The following solution will help you see clearly how your current behavior represents your parents' or abuser's behavior. What do you and your parents have in common? For this, you will need 3 or 4 pieces of paper. Number 1. On one piece of paper, write how your parents neglected you or were abusive toward you. This includes attitudes or verbal abuse. On the second paper, write down ways other adults or your relatives abused you. Number 3. On another paper, write the ways you were neglectful or abusive toward your children. This list does not need to be read by anybody else. Making this list will be no doubt very painful, and you may try to lie to yourself. To break your shame while writing, take deep breaths and write again. Remember, you are doing this to get better. And number 4, compare the list you made. Note the similarities in how you have been abusive or neglectful toward your children, partner, or others. The lesser-known consequences of abuse and neglect. There are also other subtle legacies of abuse and neglect. For instance, those with a history of abuse can often clearly see their children, partners, close relationships, or co-workers. They see them through the lens of fear, anger, distrust, and pain. They see signs of abandonment, betrayal, and rejection, even though it's not there. Those who have been subject to abuse and neglect in the past are often unable to trust their partners. They also have issues with anger management. They also have high expectations from their children and don't want to see them make any mistakes. Practicing self-understanding. Although some people are more resilient than others, the damage they have faced from the abuse has long-term consequences. In this dilemma, gaining self-understanding will help you. It will stop you from adding more shame to your overwhelmed condition, and it will also act as a fuel to motivate you to change, grow, and get better. It will also help you to stop being self-judgmental. And that is the end of chapter 6. All right, everybody. Y'all know what time it is. Group up. Come on, you still here. Group up. Y'all ready for chapter 7? What's your question? We need a hug, Reggie? I got you. Thank you, Michael. This book is called Healing from Childhood Trauma, Tribe. You wanna? Okay. Not all y'all on a different app and got the same download. Sorry, no hugs from the back, okay? Everybody ready for chapter 7? Okay. Y'all ready? Instagram, y'all ready? YouTube, y'all ready? Okay, I'm waiting. I don't want to overwhelm you guys, so let me know when y'all ready. Ready? Alright, TikTok is ready. Instagram, YouTube, y'all ready? YouTube is ready. Instagram. Alright, y'all, we're gonna send another hug to Instagram. Okay. Chapter 7. Self-forgiveness. Everything you have read till now leads you toward this chapter. Self-forgiveness is a step you can take to eliminate debilitating shame. Self-forgiveness is recommended only for those who are working to heal from abuse after effects. It will help you in being more receptive to others. You will be able to recognize how you have harmed yourself. Your relationship with yourself will vastly improve. Self-forgiveness is a healing medicine. It acts as a neutralizer toward the poison you get from shame. It soothes the body, mind, and soul. Self-forgiveness also facilitates the overall healing process. The obstacles to self-forgiveness. Just as there are obstacles in practicing self-compassion, there are also barriers in the way of self-forgiveness. You may view self-forgiveness as a tool to let yourself off the hook. Another obstacle is that you may need to forgive your abuser. It is essential to forgive your abuser for self-forgiveness because after forgiving your abuser, you will be able to forgive yourself. Another reason you might struggle with self-forgiveness is that you want to be nice and want to be in an ideal position. To be as good as you want yourself to be, you may become unforgiving of yourself because you have raised the bar to a level too high. The final obstacle is the question that arises in many victims' mind. How does forgiving help those who have been harmed? Forgiving yourself for the abuse itself. Self-forgiveness always starts and ends with the abuse itself. I hope that what you've read this far will help you to stop blaming yourself. However, some people just refuse to accept it. They are not to be blamed for the abuse they have endured, no matter how many times they are counseled about this. They are convinced that they are somehow responsible for the abuse they have suffered. This is highly likely for those who have suffered abuse at the hands of their parents. Abuser traits. Those who have become abusive have certain predictable traits. Those who are abusive have childhood trauma that involves emotional, physical, or sexual abuse. They tend to blame others for their problems. They have a strong desire to remain in control and a constant fear of things spiraling out of control. They have difficulty empathizing with others. Inability to respect personal boundaries. Uncontrollable temper and anger. Being unreasonable and having poor impulsive control. They are emotionally needy and very demanding. Anger, which is repressed. They suffer from stress and anxiety. They have an intense fear of abandonment and reflection. Narcissistic and selfish. They have poor coping skills. Abuser beliefs. Those who are abused have certain beliefs about themselves. These beliefs set the tone of their relationship with others, and they can be abusive. These beliefs include: the abuser is always right, no matter what. It is always someone else's fault. Their need is of high priority than others. They have a right to demand from others, and if they refuse, they are the enemy. They are better and superior to others. Other people's feelings are not important. Those who complain are too sensitive. No one should be trusted. This person has an abusive personality if they often have the above-mentioned thoughts. Such individuals are abusive in most of their relationships, especially when they have authority and power right under their sleeves. Knowing about the abusive personality and how this personality looks can help you understand that there is one person for abusing a child. It is never the child's fault. I'm saying all of this because it's not your fault that you were abused. No matter the circumstances, it is always the fault of the abuser. I hope this will give you clarity and a clear picture. There's absolutely nothing an innocent child can do to warrant abuse. And that is the end of chapter 7. Thank you, Sincere. All right, y'all ready for chapter 8? Don't be distracted by the comments. You can get these patient points. I believe in you. I believe in you. You're welcome. Chapter 8. Self-acceptance. Gaining self-acceptance can also be a natural outcome of self-forgiveness and self-understanding. When you behave as you wish and have forgiven yourself, you are more than likely to accept yourself for who you are. Unfortunately, you will probably find this impossible for former abuse victims to see themselves in this way. Although forgiving yourself for your past mistakes may have helped you, if you continue to be self-critical and unforgiving of your ongoing mistakes, you will find out that you are accumulating your shame. While there are many things that you want to change for yourself, you must develop self-acceptance. As abused children are often deprived of life and affection and are constantly called out for their mistakes, they must work towards self-acceptance and give themselves what they really deserve. In this chapter, I will help you to change your lifetime shaming behavior through self-acceptance. It may not be easy to change it, but you can do it. I encourage you to do the following. Try to discontinue behaviors that add to your shame. This includes being self-critical and overly judgmental. Understand that we all have weaknesses, flaws, and shortcomings, and recognize that they are all part of human nature. Confront your beliefs that you shouldn't make any mistakes and you should always be perfect. Try to work on accepting yourself and keep in mind that you are prone to making mistakes. Try to forgive yourself for your past mistakes and also your current mistakes. Your critical inner voice. One of the significant steps towards developing self-acceptance is to turn off your inner critical voice. Instead, try to have a nurturing or compassionate self. Everyone has a critical inner voice, but abusing this voice drives people crazy as it completely overwhelms them. When a child is being abused constantly, you cannot keep these critical messages out. If the critical voice of the parent becomes your inner voice, then it is referred to as an introjected parent. How to identify your inner critic. It can sometimes be challenging to identify your inner critic. This voice can seem natural and a normal part. But with every attack that this voice makes on you, it weakens you and tears you down slowly. Your inner critic has many roles. It is detrimental because it sets impossible and unachievable goals of perfection. It makes you guilt-ridden for small mistakes. It blames you for anything that goes wrong. It calls you derogatory names. It constantly compares you to others. The following practice will help you reduce the negative messages that you have received from your parents. Your inner critic, your parents. Number 1, write about what your parents wished for you and what you wished for them. What did they want you to do, and why did they want you to do it? How did they convey this to you, and how did it impact you? Number 2, examine if your inner critic or judge behaves in the same way your parents do. Do you relate to yourself in the same manner you interact with others? The pathological inner critic. Your pathological inner voice drives you to achieve unattainable standards. It keeps egging you to be your perfect image. It never leaves you satisfied and makes you feel incompetent. Answer the following to see how powerful your inner critic voice is. Do you have high standards set for yourself? Do you spend significant time evaluating your performance? Do you feel okay after making mistakes? Do you feel regret for a long time after making a mistake? Is your mind constantly plagued with critical messages about yourself? Do you envy others and their success? If you answer yes to 2 or more questions above, your life is being dominated by your inner critic voice. Noticing your critical messages. Number 1, start by observing how frequently you receive critical signals in your thoughts. Keep note of how often you hear from your inner critic by maintaining a diary or writing it down. Number 2, sorry, this phone's about to die. Number 2, pay attention to when these messages appear, such as when you try something new or when someone compliments you. Number 3, it's also a good idea to jot down the content of any vital messages you receive. This will assist you in determining whose voice you will be hearing, perhaps your mother, your father, or another caretaker. The words and tone will most certainly bring back memories of how one or more of these persons spoke to you as a child, or even today. Talking back to your inner critic. Although it is difficult to stop your judgmental and critical inner voice, you don't have to listen to it or be encouraged by it. This inner voice is activated whenever you are feeling vulnerable and exposed. Once it is set in motion, it is a shaming spiral that gets more powerful. Therefore, you must internalize this inner dialogue to take away its power. One way to counter it is by talking back to it. You have to take it literally. We need to act decisively and right at the moment. This is done the same way you would put down a bully trying to hold you down. You cannot allow your inner critic voice to wear you down and slowly take you over. Most people are afraid to talk back because some have their parents' voices as their inner critic. It may feel that they are talking back to them. If this idea scares you, take it slowly. Talk back only when you feel brave and confident. The following phrases have been particularly powerful in eliminating and silencing the inner critic's voice. Choose voices in which you are comfortable and confident, as well as statements that empower you. I'm not buying it. This is dangerous. Put a stop to it. Get off my back. Waste of time. These are fabrications. My mother told me the same falsehoods. Countering your inner critic with compassion. Once you know more about your inner critic, you can utilize self-compassion to counter it. As compassion is an antidote to shame, it also acts as a neutralizer for your inner critic. When you are compassionate with yourself, you silence your inner critic. Learning to be compassionate with yourself will also help you to realize your self-worth. It allows you to understand yourself better. You'll have no trouble forgiving yourself when you don't hear your inner critic criticizing you. When you hear your inner critic talking to you, respond with something like this. I'm just doing the best I can. I'm only human, and humans make errors. Given my circumstances, this is the best I can do right now. I'm perfectly fine the way I am. Creating a nurturing inner voice. Number 1, sit in a comfortable position and close your eyes. As you conduct this technique, take a few deep breaths and establish a relaxing breathing pattern. Number 2, place your right hand on your heart and hold it there. Feel as if all your attention and awareness is directed there. Number 3, visualize your heart opening up like a flower as you breathe in and out. Feel the brightness and love flooding your heart. Allow this love to begin the process of mending your heart from past hurts. Feel as this love is expanding and it is spreading throughout your body. If you feel distracted by your thoughts, gently push them aside and focus on your heart. Number 4, visualize the love radiating from your heart and extending throughout your entire body. Allow light and love to flood your body. If you find yourself being diverted by thoughts, gently push them away and return your attention to your heart. Number 5, begin to cultivate a supportive inner voice. This isn't a harsh, judgmental tone, nor is it unduly sweet, indulgent tone. It is a soothing, friendly, or any other voice that makes you feel at ease. This voice will eventually become your own, but for now, it may be any voice you want. Someone who has been nice to you, or your favorite character from a film. If you're religious or spiritual, it may be what you picture God, Jesus, or Buddha's voice would sound like. And number 6, if you don't hear any loving words, don't get upset. Some people have a more difficult time imagining and connecting with a kind, loving part of themselves than others. If this is true for you, here are some examples of kind words you can repeat to yourself while continuing to focus on filling your heart with love and light. I must accept myself in my original form. I should be more gentler and more understanding about myself. I should give myself the compassion I need. I am lovable. I am confident. Gently repeat the phrases you've received from your caring inner voice or the keywords I've supplied while taking deep breaths. Continue to fill your heart with love and light. While doing so, gently touch your arm or hair or hold your face in your hands. When you're ready, gradually bring your awareness back into your body. Repeat this process as many times as you can over the following several weeks. It won't happen overnight, but with practice, you'll be able to replace your inner critical voice with a more loving inner voice. This, in turn, will assist you in altering your self-perception and relationship with yourself. Set more reasonable expectations for yourself. You may have adopted this unjust and punitive attitude toward yourself due to the abuse you received as a child, which includes your parents having high expectations of you and pushing you when you were not perfect. You may create excessive objectives and expectations for yourself. You may always want to accomplish things right and without making mistakes. When you do make unavoidable mistakes or transgress, you are likely to be severe with yourself, chastising yourself as brutally as your parents did. You might be pushing yourself by starving yourself, depriving yourself of all nice things, or even harming yourself. If you don't have reasonable expectations of yourself, expectations that are neither too harsh nor too lenient, you will constantly feel disappointed in yourself. It can activate your inner critical voice, and you will not take action to reach your true potential. When examining the history of abuse, a fair expectation can be reached. Because of your abusive background, it's understandable that you would have poor self-esteem, a harsh inner critic, and a pathological shame. Given your background, it's unrealistic for yourself to overcome the harmful consequences of abuse overnight. However, it is realistic to assume that by reading this book and working through the exercises, you will be able to begin to undo most of the harm you have endured. Use the following exercise to understand some of your unreasonable expectations about your behavior and replace them with more reasonable ones. Exercise. It is more reasonable. Number 1. Think of any behavior that you would like to change. For instance, you want to improve your parenting skills. Number 2. This format is to be used so you can identify unreasonable expectations. Number 3. Given blank, it is illogical for me to blank. It is more illogical for me to blank. Example. given my parents harsh criticism of me, it's ridiculous for me never to be harsh with my own children. It's more rational for me to recognize when I'm being critical, admit it to myself and my children, and work on not being critical. And that is the end of chapter 8. Everybody good? Everybody good? Everybody good? Okay, well, this is where we are in the book. Look how much we got done today. Okay? And if you just got here and you missed any of the book, don't worry, I'm going to upload it. Instagram is going to save the live as soon as I hang up, and it's going to say, it's not going to be broken up, but it will have all the chapters. YouTube also is going to post a live sometime tonight. For the life of me, I don't know why YouTube takes forever to upload, but cuckoo. Okay, Instagram is where you go if you need it to be immediate. If you need to listen to the chapters now, Instagram will have them all bundled up. However, I will be downloading a live, and I will be breaking up the chapters, and I will be uploading them. So it's just going to take me a little minute because I'm hungry. I'm going to go eat. And then I'm going to download it and break them up and upload them. So what time is it? 2:22. Oh, dang it, 2:23. All right. Well, I'm about to go eat. Hopefully, you guys, it wasn't too much. Hopefully, I don't want to put anybody in an emotional state that's too overwhelming. So if it was, I apologize. And I just sent you some love, okay? And that's all I have for you guys right now. After I go feed my belly and upload, I'll be back, okay? So, any questions before I get off of here? Oh, thank you everybody who's sending me gifts. I seen y'all sending me gifts. I appreciate y'all sending me gifts. I seen y'all following. I seen y'all tapping. I seen y'all sharing the live. You are appreciated, okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. Clap before you leave. Any other questions? YouTube. Thank you, D-Money. Can I get 360? Oh my gosh. Y'all, it's just a meat suit. It's literally just a meat suit, you know? Alright, I'm about to go eat. I'll see you guys later. Bye, TikTok. Bye, YouTube.